It's been a crazy day and pretty good day actually. I've taken a walk. I mean, look at this beautiful country. Anyway, it's such a beautiful day too. I'm pretty blessed to be here and be alive and be with my family. Um, anyway, the day started off somewhat normal, and but I got to give you an update on what's happened today. Hayden this morning went to State Bank of Southern Utah and talked to this Mr. David Duncan, who's the CFO of St. Luke's, and I was a little upset when he came and told me. He felt like he was just dismissed, like he was told that they weren't going to basically do anything about it, and in my opinion, I wasn't there, but the way it was told to me, and certainly Hayden kind of felt this, if I understood him right, that because he's just young, and the bank, Mr. Duncan basically just kind of didn't consider him as important. And anyway, so it kind of upset me, fired me up a little bit again, because obviously this was happening to him in a way because of me, certainly, because I'm his father, and even though I don't believe that there was fault there, but it was happening because of me. And so we began to do several things, and including my wife went down to Washington County Courthouse, St. George, and she filed a motion with the court. And down there, the clerk, I don't know how these courts even function. She basically said that, that she wasn't an attorney, so they were not going to expedite the motion in any way, and that she had to go through this process. And anyway, sent her down this crazy path. She ended up leaving the document, but they wouldn't sign it as the clerk as admitting it. They ended up admitting it, filing it, I guess, in the court later that day, but totally was disregarding the urgency of it. And so, I heard word about that, and that was frustrating. I ended up calling the court and talked to another clerk, and that clerk ultimately gave me a little bit better information, and was more helpful. But then she's just like, I'm sorry, all the judges are out this week. And even if we did expedite it, which she said, I'm not promising to do, it would be at least 10 days before it's heard. And I said, well, what is my son supposed to do about his bank account being seized and all the obligations that he has? And, what's he supposed to do about that? So then I, kept working on it, and ended up calling, what's his name, Darren Reed, who's the St. Luke's attorney who actually communicated with State Bank of Southern Utah over this. And of course, as many of you know, we also sent this information and what was happening to my son. We sent it through the People's Rights Network, and it got blasted out there. And, thousands and thousands of people heard about it. And even though we didn't ask anybody to call and to inquire, I don't know how many people, but, many people started calling the bank. And I suspect started calling this St. Luke's attorney as well. Well, anyhow, I end up talking to this St. Luke's attorney, I keep forgetting his name, Darren Reed. How could I forget his name? He has the same last name as Harry Reid. Oh man, that's a whole backstory. We won't get into that, right? But anyway, we communicated for a little bit, and I asked him to give my son's money back and stop doing what they're doing. And ultimately, this kind of towards the end of the day, he seemed very, quite open with conceding and returning the money back to my son. And so I thought that was good information. And then probably a couple hours later, Hayden gets a phone call from the CFO of State Bank, this Darren Duncan, and he was informed that the funds would be released, that his account would be unfrozen, and that he would have access to his money again. And in that conversation, the CFO of State Bank Southern Utah indicated that he was getting a lot of pressure from his co-workers, from different customers and so forth, the way I understood it, and many other people. And then again, as he said, a couple hours later, my son's funds his bank accounts were unfroze, and and all his money was in the bank accounts, availability again, and he he now has his money. He's able to do what he did. Now I will have to say that he had a credit card payment today, and that was very difficult for him. He had to go down, get a money order, and then they wouldn't take the money order, so then he had to go down and try to get some, we had to get some cash for him, and he had to go through a whole bunch of hoops just to get this money to this, because he was really afraid that it was going to affect his credit, because the whole reason he got the credit card was just to build credit. And so that was difficult for him, but he did get it done. And but it took him pretty much all day going through all the hoops to try to get this money to this credit card company through this non-traditional way. But by the end of the day, his account was restored to him, and he has his money. And Hayden said something to me that was kind of amazing when he came back in. He said, "Dad, it's just amazing how powerful the people are when they unite." And I couldn't agree more with him. I'm so glad that he's able to see this and experience this, even though it was kind of difficult and it was unjust and wrong what happened to him. But it is amazing. When we unite and we protect each other, then we are able to fight off a lot of evil and be okay. And also, I will say that there was many people, many of you out there, that almost makes me want to get emotional, because there was many people that were willing to pay for any loss that Hayden had. The total amount that is in the bank account and anything that he owed or was needing to pay, they were more than willing. And there was many people out there, and you know who they are, and some in part and some in full. And that's a way we overcome this wickedness, is we come together, we defend each other, and we also assist each other in the immediate needs. Now, I do want to say this. I don't think that this Darren Duncan at State Bank of Southern Utah is a bad guy. I think he made a really bad decision. And I think he's probably been making these bad decisions for a long time. And unfortunately, people most people don't have the voice that we have. And so they're probably just, their accounts are taken from them or unavailable to them for months, maybe, at least weeks, months, maybe even years, when they did nothing wrong. And this was a bad decision by an executive of this bank. And I do want to say this, that, my family has had a relationship with State Bank of Southern Utah for many decades, a good relationship. And in fact, I'll say so good that after the whole Bundy Ranch situation, State Bank of Southern Utah continued to work with my father and his ranch when he's buying and selling cattle. And they supported him, in that financial needs, like they had before the whole Bundy Ranch standoff. And they have been good to work with. But it is so important that each person inside these institutions, especially a bank, protects their account holders and protects them against these wickedness, because there's these judges, like this judge that signed off, this Ludlow or whatever his name was. I heard he's retired now. I mean, for him to just rubber stamp this court order that St. Luke's put in front of him a year ago, for him to just rubber stamp it and not make sure that it didn't, not to make sure that it didn't use the terms of post office box and that kind of stuff, was just irresponsible of him. And what happened here, and I want people to understand, is St. Luke's drafted that court order, the St. Luke's attorneys. I'm sure as Eric's did them or he was involved in it, but they drafted that court order and then they presented it to the judge. And remember, that's the same court order that made it so that Lisa and I couldn't have a bank account in Utah, that any bank account that's associated with us, that's where this terminology came from. It came from St. Luke's. And they drafted it, put it in front of the judge, and the judge, like an idiot, just signed it. He didn't put any limitations on it. He didn't, do anything that to make sure that individuals like my son were protected, let alone, he didn't do anything to protect my wife and I. And, but that's how this goes about. And then here comes State Bank of Southern Utah, and they just drop their drawers and don't question it. And it's, from what I can understand and the legal advice I've been getting and the legal research that I've done and others have done, it is completely unlawful to take money from an individual who have never had a chance to participate in any due process and who is only connected to another person with a judgment through a mailing address, especially a P.O. box. And so State Bank is, they are culpable in this, very much so. And I'm not letting off on that because they did not protect my son, and they should have. Now, something really funny. Oh, so I told you, I have several family members that have long-term, deep relationships. And what I mean by that is they do a lot of dollars through State Bank of Southern Utah, and including my father. But one of the associates, one of the bankers, I should say, because he's more than just an associate. He's a banker, and I'm not going to mention any names here. But he contacted one of my family members and asked them to please tell Hayden and Ammon to turn off all the calls and all the people that are contacting them and putting pressure on them. And I just thought that was, kind of funny in the sense that, all of you cared enough about Hayden to pick up the phone or write an email or communicate with people who had the power to make a difference here, and how fast that sped things up. And it's just a testament again that the people have the power. They really do. And in most cases, it can be done peacefully. But it just takes a unity of people, coming together. And that's what happened. And I want to thank you personally for that, and just give you that update. Now, there are some things that are still going on. Hayden's still he filed that motion with the court. And I hope that the court sees what happened here, that they were manipulated by Holland and Hart, St. Luke's attorneys, into doing something, to signing an order that was unlawful, and that an innocent person was damaged because of this, and that they won't let it happen again, that they'll do their due diligence and make sure that people are protected, because that's what the courts are supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be a check and a balance to other branches of government, and also to large institutions that function like governments and have a lot of power to hurt people. They're supposed to be that check and balance. And unfortunately, they don't do a very good job, in my opinion. But today we won, and Hayden is feeling a lot more at ease about his future and financial situation. And I believe that many of you have reason to take a little credit for that. So thank you, and have a good evening.